The morning sun glinted off the glass towers of downtown Atlanta as Victoria Ellis, director of urban renewal, crossed the dew-soaked grass of Magnolia Park. Her heels left faint impressions on earth, but her stride was steady, purposeful. She arrived early, as always, to review the final documents for the day's high-stakes meeting, a $120 million redevelopment proposal that would reshape the heart of the city's historic Sweet Auburn district. Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. A message from her assistant, confirming the arrival of the developers. She exhaled, steeling herself. Today would be a test not just of policy, but of character. Across the street, a white Mercedes S-Class rolled to a stop. Two women emerged, both white, both dressed in the kind of tailored suits that signaled old money and new ambition. The oldest, with platinum hair and a voice that could cut glass, was Evelyn Hart, CEO of Hart Row Development. Her partner, the younger and sharper-tongued Madison Rowe, followed, phone already pressed to her ear. Evelyn's voice carried across the park, oblivious to the early joggers and dog walkers. These rundown neighborhoods are gold mines, Maddie. Buy low, push the locals out, build high and sell to the tech crowd. It's a game, and we play to win. They approached the park bench where Victoria sat. Reviewing her notes, Evelyn barely glanced at her. We need coffee. Black for me. Oat milk latte for my partner. And let the board know we're here. Victoria closed her folder, her expression unreadable. Evelyn Hart and Madison Rowe, I presume? Evelyn's eyes narrowed, confusion flickering across her face. Yes, and you are? Victoria Ellis, Director of Urban Renewal. Welcome to Sweet Auburn. The color drained from Evelyn's face. Madison's mouth opened, then snapped shut. For a moment, the only sound was the distant hum of traffic and the laughter of children from the nearby Code playground. Before the developers could recover, Victoria stood, extending her hand. The board is waiting inside. Shall we? As they walked toward the municipal building, Madison hissed. You didn't tell me she was. Evelyn cut her off with a glare. Just follow my lead. Inside, the boardroom was already filling with city officials and community leaders. Councilwoman Denise Carter, a formidable black woman with a reputation for grilling developers, sat at Victoria's right. The air was thick with anticipation. Evelyn launched into her pitch, voice regaining its practiced confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, Hart, Rowe is committed to revitalizing Sweet Auburn. Our investment will create jobs, increase property values, and bring prosperity to a neglected area. Denise leaned forward. And what happens to the families living here now? The small businesses? The church on Auburn Avenue? Madison smiled tightly. We've developed a transition plan. Qualifying residents will receive relocation assistance. And we're including affordable units 10%, in fact. Victoria's eyes didn't leave the developers. That's 20 units. There are over 200 families here. Evelyn's tone sharpened. Director Ellis, with respect, these buildings are outdated. Our project brings modern amenities and economic opportunity. The meeting grew tense. Denise's pen scratched furiously across her notepad. The board's skepticism was palpable. After the presentation, Victoria thanked them and dismissed the room. As the developers left, Madison muttered, This is a waste of time. She's just another bureaucrat with a chip on her shoulder. But Victoria was already moving. In her office, she and her legal counsel, Samuel Brooks, pored over the developers' financial disclosures. Something didn't add up. The promised affordable housing would cost far more than the budget allowed. The community benefits were listed as optional phases, contingent on tax incentives that hadn't even been applied for. Samuel frowned. They're promising the city one thing and telling their investors another. Victoria nodded. It's not just arrogance, it's a fraud. The next day, the city's largest newspaper ran a story. Developers promise, residents fear. Sweet Auburn's uncertain future. The community mobilized. Church leaders, business owners, and longtime residents packed the next public hearing, their voices rising in a chorus of concern and defiance. Evelyn and Madison, sensing the tide turning, doubled down. They called in favors from City Hall, leaning on political connections. The mayor's office began pressuring Victoria to streamline the review process. A state senator, rumored to be a silent investor, requested a private meeting. But Victoria refused to bend. She ordered a comprehensive review, environmental studies, historical preservation assessments, traffic impact analyses. Each new requirement delayed the project and exposed more discrepancies. Behind closed doors, Evelyn raged. "She's burying us in paperwork! We need leverage!" Madison, usually the more ruthless, hesitated. "Maybe we should revise the proposal. Actually build affordable units. The press is watching." Evelyn's eyes flashed. "We don't negotiate with bureaucrats. Find out what makes Ellis tick. Everyone has a weakness." Meanwhile, Victoria was building alliances. She met with Denise Carter and local activists, encouraging them to organize. "The system works for those who understand it," she told them. "Let's make sure our voices are heard." A week later, a whistleblower email landed in Victoria's inbox. Attached were internal memos from Hart Row outlining plans to delay affordable housing indefinitely and quietly buy out key properties before public notice. The sender, Madison Row. Samuel was stunned. "She's turning on her own partner?" Victoria read the email twice, then picked up the phone. "Get me the city ethics office." And the investors. The next board meeting was standing room only. News cameras lined the walls. Victoria presented her findings: financial misrepresentations, fraudulent promises, and a secret plan to displace hundreds of families. She played a recording Madison's voice from an investor call. "The affordable units are just for show. We'll phase them out once we get approval." The room erupted. Evelyn tried to protest, but Denise cut her off. "You lied to this city, you lied to your investors, and you tried to erase a community for profit!" The board voted unanimously to reject the proposal. The city ethics office launched an investigation. Investors pulled out. Hart Row's stock plummeted overnight. But the story didn't end there. Evelyn, desperate, filed a lawsuit against the city, alleging racial bias and regulatory harassment. The mayor's office, fearing political fallout, pressured Victoria to settle. But Victoria stood firm, backed by a coalition of residents, activists, and even Madison, who testified to the company's deception. In a final twist, the state senator who had backed Hart Row was exposed for accepting illegal campaign contributions. The scandal made national headlines. Evelyn Hart was indicted for fraud. Madison, seeking redemption, joined a nonprofit dedicated to ethical urban development. 6 months later, Victoria stood at the ribbon cutting for the new Sweet Auburn Community Center. The redevelopment, now led by a local black-owned firm, preserved historic buildings and guaranteed affordable housing for every displaced family. The community had shaped its own future. As Victoria looked out over the crowd, families, business owners, children playing in the sun, she felt a quiet pride. She hadn't set out to be a hero. She had simply refused to be underestimated, or to let arrogance and prejudice go unchallenged. A young woman approached, notebook in hand. "Miss Ellis, I'm Jasmine Carter. I'm studying urban planning. My grandmother says you saved our neighborhood." Victoria smiled. "Your grandmother helped save it. Never forget real change comes from people who care enough to fight for it." As the celebration continued, Victoria sipped her coffee, listening to the laughter and music that filled the park. The real victory, she knew, wasn't just in stopping a bad deal. It was in empowering a community to write its own story. And somewhere, she hoped, the city's ancestors were nodding in approval. If you enjoyed this story, share it with someone who believes in justice. And remember, the power to shape our communities belongs to all of us.